Have you heard of Deaundrea Ford?
I have. I've been following it through the media reports. The way she did go up missing, again, red flags go up.
I just hope she's alive.
Picture this. A young mother goes to work, never to return home to her child. A white van drives away into the night. A 51-year-old man harbors a deadly secret. These are the pieces of the puzzle in Deaundrea Ford's disappearance. It was a typical September night in Houston, Texas. Deaundrea, 21, kissed her child goodbye and headed to her job at Diva's Bikini Bar and Grill. The busy club was filled with the usual Friday night crowd, but as the night wore on, something wasn't right. Surveillance cameras caught a chilling moment. Deaundrea talking to an unknown man inside the bar. Then, she walked out with him. A white van pulled away, carrying Deaundrea into the darkness. That was the last time anyone saw her. The next day, her family's frantic calls went unanswered. Deaundrea's empty apartment told a story of a life suddenly interrupted. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the community. How could a young mother vanish without a trace? Stay tuned as we discover what happened to Deaundrea Ford. Don't forget to watch the video until the end to find answers to all your questions. But who was Deaundrea Ford?
If I can't call and ask you for no cash, don't call and ask me for no.
Born in 2001, Deaundrea grew up just outside Houston, Texas. Her life took an unexpected turn when she became a mother at 16. Instead of giving up, she moved in with her grandmother for support, determined to provide for her son. Deaundrea's world revolved around her child. For 4 years, she lived with her grandmother, working various jobs to make ends meet. Her loving and trusting nature shone through in everything she did. Friends and family knew her as someone who was always there when they needed her. In May, Deaundrea survived a frightening incident when gunfire erupted while she was in a car, but she pushed forward, starting a new job as a dancer at Diva's Bikini Bar and Grill. Her co-workers and customers quickly grew fond of her. She was deemed by both her co-workers and patrons to the bar as an incredibly hardworking person with an infectious personality. Deaundrea's life seemed to be on an upswing, but her trusting nature would lead her into danger on that September night when she left work with a stranger. As the community reeled from Deaundrea's disappearance, investigators pieced together her final known moments. Deaundrea arrived for her evening shift at Diva's Bikini Bar and Grill on Thursday, September 21st, ready to dance and earn money for her family. The club was buzzing with energy that night. Deaundrea took the stage, captivating the crowd with her performance. After her set, she made her way to the bar, chatting with regular customers. As the clock struck 1 a.m., Deaundrea's shift came to an end. She reached out to a family friend, asking for a ride home, but Deaundrea had always been fiercely independent, often looking for other ways to get around without relying on family. That's when things took an unexpected turn. Surveillance footage from the club captured a crucial moment. Deaundrea talking to an unidentified man at the bar. Their conversation lasted for an unknown amount of time, but it ended with a decision that would haunt her loved ones. Deaundrea and the mystery man left the club together. She sent a quick message to her family friend, saying she'd found another way home. The friend urged her to wait, but Deaundrea had made up her mind. The cameras outside Diva's Bikini Bar and Grill told the rest of the story. Deaundrea climbed into a white GMC Savannah van with the stranger, but what happened next was puzzling. The van didn't drive off immediately. Instead, it sat there, headlights off, for nearly an hour.
There is surveillance video of her leaving the Diva's Bikini Bar and Grill, where she had worked for 2 weeks, and getting into a white van with a man.
What transpired inside that van during that hour? Was Deaundrea having second thoughts? Was the mystery man trying to convince her of something? These questions would torment investigators in the days to come. Finally, after that long, mysterious wait, the van's headlights flickered to life. It pulled away from the club, carrying Deaundrea into the night. As it drove off, a crucial detail caught the eye of investigators: a New Jersey license plate. In the initial hours after Deaundrea's disappearance, those who knew her weren't immediately alarmed. They assumed she might have been looking for a free ride home or trying to make some extra cash. But as hours turned into days, the truth became clear. Something terrible had happened to Deaundrea Ford. The white van and the mystery man became the focus of the investigation. Who was this stranger that Deaundrea trusted enough to leave with? What connection did he have to New Jersey? And most importantly, where had he taken her? As news of Deaundrea's disappearance spread, the Houston community was plunged into a state of disbelief and fear. How could a young mother simply vanish after leaving work? The question haunted everyone who knew her. At first, Deaundrea's family tried to stay calm. They thought maybe she was working an extra shift or found a way to make some quick cash. But as hours turned into days, their worry grew into panic. On Friday, September 22, 2023, the family's worst fears began to take shape. Deaundrea hadn't come home to her grandmother's house as planned. The days that followed were a blur of frantic phone calls and desperate searches. Deaundrea's family reached out to everyone they could think of: friends, co-workers, anyone who might have seen her, but no one had any answers. By Monday, September 25th, 4 long days after Deaundrea was last seen, her family couldn't wait any longer. They called the Houston Police Department to report her missing. The police quickly opened an investigation, realizing the potential danger Deaundrea might be in.
The local mother has been missing for nearly a week. Tonight, police and family members continue the search for Deaundrea Ford.
Today marks 3 weeks since 21-year-old Deaundrea Ford was last seen.
September 21st is the last time anyone saw Deaundrea.
As word got out, the community rallied around Deaundrea's family. Search parties were organized. Flyers with her picture were plastered all over the east side of Houston. People who had never met Deaundrea joined in the efforts to find her. They combed through neighborhoods, parks, and abandoned buildings, hoping for any clue that might lead to her whereabouts. The staff at Diva's bar and grill were left in shock. They had watched Deaundrea leave with the mystery man, thinking she was just looking for a ride home. Now, they were racked with guilt and fear. Deaundrea's grandmother, Bridget Carriere, who had helped raise her and her child, was devastated. She spent sleepless nights by the phone, praying for any news. Deaundrea's young son, too young to fully understand what was happening, kept asking when his mommy was coming home. "I know she's trying to get home," Bridget Carriere told Dateline. "We're trying to get her back as soon as possible." As days turned into weeks, the initial shock gave way to a grim determination. Deaundrea's uncle Kevin Carriere took charge, leading the family's efforts to find justice. He spoke to anyone who would listen, pleading for help and criticizing what he saw as a lack of urgency from the police and media.
At the end of the day, we want Deaundrea back. We want answers. We want any of the two.
The community's frustration grew as the investigation seemed to stall. People demanded answers. At Diva's bar and grill, Deaundrea's absence was felt deeply. Her locker remained untouched, a painful reminder of the vibrant young woman who had disappeared.
I want my niece home. Her son wants his mom home. My niece wants her sister home. My mom wants a granddaughter home. I mean, it's just that simple.
And you believe she's still alive?
I believe she's still alive. I'm going to carry that hope until I'm told otherwise.
As the community reeled, investigators dove headfirst into the mystery of Deaundrea's disappearance. They knew the first 48 hours were crucial in any missing persons case. Detectives hit the streets, interviewing anyone who might have seen Deaundrea that fateful night. They combed through security footage from nearby businesses, hoping to catch a glimpse of that white van.
First, you've got a witness in a capital murder case that's gone missing, and that always, to me, sends red flags up. The way she did go up missing, again, red flags go up.
But the real breakthrough came from an unlikely source, the staff at Diva's bar and grill. They confirmed what the grainy surveillance footage had shown. Deaundrea had left with an unidentified man. Her uncle claimed that it was normal for her to ask for a lift home.
At the end of the day, the one thing that I know to be the truth is that when my little niece is ready to leave from anywhere, if someone's not there to pick her up or get her, sometimes for a lack of better judgment, she'll accept a ride from people. I mean, she's never had a problem with that in the past, and I've spoken with her about that in the past, but I just don't want people to get it construed or twist anything. You know, that all spiraled from text messages that she sent out saying that she was ready to be picked up to go home, you know, and for whatever reason, she elected to find another way home.
The bartender remembered seeing her climb into a white GMC Savannah van. It was a small detail, but it would prove to be a crucial piece of the puzzle. The van's unusual behavior caught the attention of investigators. It hadn't driven off right away. Instead, it sat there for nearly an hour, headlights off, before finally pulling away. What happened during that hour? The question haunted detectives as they dug deeper into the case. As days turned into weeks, the investigation seemed to hit a wall. But then, on November 1st, a ray of hope broke through the darkness. An out-of-state police department contacted Houston PD with news that would reignite the search. They had found a van matching the description of the one Deaundrea was last seen in. The investigation team rushed to examine the vehicle, hoping it would lead them to Deaundrea. What they found inside sent chills down their spines. DNA evidence, multiple cell phones, each item a potential clue to unraveling the mystery of what happened that September night. But the most significant discovery was yet to come. The van had an owner, a 51-year-old man named Yolland Washington. Suddenly, the faceless stranger from the surveillance footage had a name. Detectives brought Washington in for questioning. They grilled him for hours, hoping he would slip up and reveal Deaundrea's whereabouts. But Washington had a story ready. He spun a tale that, at first glance, seemed to satisfy the investigators. Despite the evidence found in his van, they let him go. The decision to release Washington left Deaundrea's family and the community baffled. How could they let him walk free when there was so much evidence pointing to his involvement? The police remained tight-lipped about their reasons, leaving everyone with more questions than answers. As the investigation continued, detectives turned to Deaundrea's family for help. They asked for DNA samples to compare against the evidence found in the van. But even as they followed new leads, one question loomed large over the investigation. Where was Deaundrea? But the wheels of justice were still turning. As days passed, more evidence came to light. The DNA found in the van was tested against samples from Deaundrea's family. The results confirmed what many had feared. Deaundrea had indeed been in that van.
According to these court records, DNA consistent with the victim was found mixed with the defendant's DNA in bloodstains found on a shirt the suspect was wearing the night of Ford's disappearance.
With this new evidence in hand, the police moved swiftly. On a crisp November morning, they descended on Washington's home. This time, there would be no walking away. Yolland Washington was arrested and charged with Deaundrea's murder.
Houston police say this man has been arrested in connection with the disappearance of a Houston woman. Yolland Washington is now charged with murder. He's currently behind bars in Dallas awaiting transport back to Harris County. He's charged in the disappearance and presumed death of Deaundrea Ford. Her body has not yet been found.
The community breathed a collective sigh of relief. The monster who had taken their beloved Deaundrea was behind bars.
Police say they are charging 51-year-old Yolland Washington in the death of Deaundrea Ford. The 21-year-old was last seen alive at her job at Diva's Bikini sports bar, where family believes she was kidnapped. Troy Kless joins us live after going through several pages of court documents, and we do want to warn our viewers the details are disturbing.
Well, I spoke with Ford's uncle on the phone earlier today. He says that the family is really distraught right now. Meanwhile, the suspect in this case is waiting to be extradited back to Houston.
But the arrest brought little comfort to her family. Where was Deaundrea? What had happened to her in those final moments? The arrest of Yolland Washington was just the beginning. As investigators prepared their case, they knew they faced an uphill battle. Without Deaundrea's body, proving murder would be challenging, but they were determined to bring justice for the young mother who never made it home. As investigators dug deeper into Yolland Washington's past, a chilling connection to Deaundrea Ford began to emerge.
East Houston is where Deaundrea Ford was last seen. Documents say she met Yolland Washington there, and surveillance cameras show the two going into a van together around 1:23 a.m. Washington allegedly told detectives that he paid Ford for sex. Charging documents say surveillance video showing Ford getting into the back of the van is the last time she's seen alive. Over an hour later, Washington gets into the front seat and drives away. When we spoke to Ford's family in September, they were worried.
I'm confident that something's not right. This is not her normal behavior.
Ford's phone was found the same morning, but Washington and his van were found in Virginia days later. Ford was not in the van, but deputies found blood in multiple areas.
The community waited to learn what could drive a 51-year-old man to allegedly target a young mother. The truth, when it came to light, was more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Deaundrea wasn't just a random victim. She was a key witness in a murder investigation involving her former manager, Otis Parker Jr. This revelation cast a sinister shadow over her disappearance. Suddenly, the idea of revenge as a motive became all too plausible.
The Harris County Sheriff's Office confirming less than 4 hours ago that one of its detention officers is facing a capital murder charge. Houston police say Jarrell Wheeler killed Otis Parker Jr. on Selinsky Road back in May. Wheeler was arrested yesterday. He's being held on a $350,000 bond. The sheriff's office says he's been relieved of duty and is cooperating with the investigation.
The murder trial Deaundrea was set to testify and had put a target on her back. Her testimony could have significantly influenced the sentencing, potentially leading to harsher punishments for those involved. This gave the suspects a strong incentive to keep her quiet, permanently.
According to court documents, the murder was a planned robbery, stemming from $1,500 that Ford and another dancer made visiting clients in Louisiana. Court documents reveal angry text messages from one of the suspects talking about Ford. That text said, quote, "She ain't safe in Houston at all."
But the story wasn't as straightforward as it first appeared. The suspects in the murder trial had been captured shortly after the crime. This raised questions about the immediacy of the threat to Deaundrea. Some speculated that her disappearance might have been an attempt to prevent her from testifying, even if the risk to the suspects had diminished. Yet, as the investigation unfolded, Deaundrea's family voiced concerns about the media's narrow focus on this connection. They feared that other potential motives might be overlooked, leading to a skewed perception of her disappearance. The Houston Police Department's handling of the case added another layer of complexity. Their decision to release Washington, despite the damning evidence found in his van, left many questioning whether justice was truly being served. Deaundrea's uncle, in particular, was vocal about his frustrations. Her disappearance should not be dismissed or forgotten, he insisted, pushing for more attention and urgency in the investigation. As the pieces of the puzzle slowly came together, the community grappled with the harsh realities of Deaundrea's world. A young woman, trying to do the right thing by testifying in a murder trial, had potentially paid the ultimate price for her courage. The revelation of this potential motive brought more questions than answers. If revenge was indeed the driving force behind Deaundrea's disappearance, who exactly was responsible? Was Yolande Washington acting alone, or was he part of a larger conspiracy to silence a key witness? And most importantly, where was Deaundrea now? As the community reeled from Deaundrea's disappearance, a glimmer of hope emerged. Yolande Washington was behind bars, charged with her murder. But for Deaundrea's family, justice felt incomplete. How could they find closure without her body? The arrest brought a mix of relief and anguish. Finally, someone was being held accountable. But the missing piece, Deaundrea herself, left a gaping hole in their hearts. The legal system ground into motion, facing a unique challenge. How do you prosecute a murder without a body? It's called a no-body case, and it's not as rare as you might think. Prosecutors had to rely on circumstantial evidence, witness statements, and the DNA found in Washington's van. Inside the courtroom, tension hung heavy in the air. The judge laid out the charges against Yolande Washington, first-degree murder. The evidence was compelling, but would it be enough? Deaundrea's family sat in the front row, clinging to each other for support. As the trial progressed, details of the investigation came to light. The white van, once a symbol of Deaundrea's disappearance, now stood as a silent witness. DNA evidence placed her inside, but what happened after she got in? The prosecutors painted a grim picture, while the defense argued reasonable doubt. The prosecution rested its case, confident in the evidence they had presented. But for Deaundrea's family, the ordeal was far from over. Even if Washington was convicted, they still faced a future without their loved one. No grave to visit, no final resting place to find solace. In the end, justice in Deaundrea's case would be bittersweet. The legal system could punish her alleged killer, but it couldn't bring her home. For her family and the community, the search for true closure continued. While justice inched forward in the courtroom, the search for Deaundrea never stopped. Her family couldn't rest, knowing she was still out there somewhere. They needed to bring her home. Deaundrea's grandmother spoke of the toll this endless search was taking.
I really don't know what happened to her, but I'm hoping that she's safe and sound and that she can come home to us. If anyone has her, that they release her and let her come home. We just want her home.
Every weekend, groups of volunteers combed through wooded areas and empty lots around Houston. They looked for any sign of Deaundrea, a scrap of clothing, a personal item, anything that might lead them to her. But the city was vast, and the possibilities seemed endless. The police continued their efforts too, following up on every tip that came in, but without solid leads, they were searching for a needle in a haystack. The challenges were immense. How do you find someone who doesn't want to be found? Or worse, someone who's been hidden? As the search for Deaundrea stretched on, the community grappled with the void left by her absence. She wasn't just a face on a missing poster. She was a daughter, a friend, and most importantly, a mother. Her son, too young to understand the tragedy, kept asking when mommy was coming home. The weight of those innocent questions crushed Deaundrea's family. Friends shared stories of her infectious laugh and generous spirit. She'd give you her last dollar if you needed it, one coworker remembered. Her grandmother spoke of Deaundrea's determination, how she juggled work and motherhood with grace. She's a loving mother. She's very friendly, Bridget told Dateline about her granddaughter. It's nothing she would not do for nobody. In the wake of Deaundrea's disappearance, local organizations pushed for better safety measures for night shift workers. They called for increased security at clubs and mandatory buddy systems for employees leaving late. But would it be enough to prevent another tragedy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.